Hi, I'm back, and without tears this time. I mean, not to make light of my other video because obviously we are seriously living in horrific times. And as I said, I just needed a day after I heard the news from Alex Preddy. I just could not sit down and film. A couple days have passed and I'm feeling a little bit more optimistic, and I think it's important to stay consistent here on this channel. Thank you to everyone who commented on that very vulnerable video that I decided to upload, and I feel like I made the right decision for resources for people to help individuals in Minnesota and to know what to do if ICE comes into your town, which is just kind of spreading like wildfire right now, and how to just look out for your neighbors and yourself. But it also gave me the sense of community that I need, which is also important more than ever as it is right now, especially in my life, to have a sense of community and to know that you're not going through this alone, and to have other people to kind of bring you joy and uplift you. And that's exactly what you guys did in the comment section of that video. So I really appreciate you. It really uplifted me that day. And specifically, there was someone who was like, take your time, but like, just know that your content also brings me joy. And I'm like in Minnesota right now, like in the area where this is happening. And I was like, wow, like that's wild, that there were that many people that commented. And yeah, it just meant the world to me. So thank you. As always, I guess not as always, but moving forward, there are going to be resources in the description box below. Always check that out and do what you can in order to help others and to kind of be on the right side of history for what's going on right now. But I think it's important for me to use my platform to talk about the things that are happening, but to also press on and give a space of joy and education in terms of what's happening in our world. With that being said, I'm going to give myself and hopefully you guys a little bit of joy because I'm going to talk about my 2026 anticipated book releases. Even though we're getting close to February, this is going to encompass all of January. So some of these books that have already come out or will be coming out in the next couple days up until June. So just the first half of the year. So grab a drink. I just have some water here and let's get right into the video. Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel, Scotty Cherie Reads. Let's just jump right into January. And I actually own some of these books already. So for starters, we are gonna start with the release date for January 13th. And I have that book here already, which is This Is a Cry for Help by Emily Austen. So I have not read Emily Austen before. I just know of the book Everyone in This Room Will Someday Be Dead, which was released a year or so ago. And I've heard great things about that book. And I also like the existential idea of that title. So I'll have to pick that one up, but I figured I would grab this from Aardvark first. And I'm just gonna read the inside flap to give both of us a reminder of what this book is. It says, a hilarious, heartbreaking novel about a good marriage, bad mistakes, and the enduring power of your local library. Okay, 1 second. I did want to say I didn't know much about this. I just heard good things about Emily Austen, but the cover had books and a cat, so I had to go for it. So anyway, synopsis. It says, Darcy's life turned out better than she could have ever imagined. She is a librarian at her local branch while her wife, Joy, runs a bookbinding service. Between the two of them, there is no more room on their shelves with their ample book collections, various knickknacks, and baubles and dried bouquets. Rounding out their ideal life are 2 cats and a sun-soaked house by the lake. Sounds gorgeous. I also like that it's a sapphic relationship. Moving on, it says, but when Darcy receives the news that her ex-boyfriend, Ben, has passed away, she spirals into a pit of guilt and regret, resulting into a mental breakdown and medical leave from the library. When she returns to work, Darcy is met with more unrest as protests result in a call for book bans and a second look at the branch's upcoming DEI programming. Through the support of her colleagues and by examining her past, Darcy discovers her own agency and how to rally the community that stands with her. Is This a Cry for Help is a resounding, delightful novel from the queen of darkly quirky, endearing, flawed heroines. Okay, so darkly quirky, that sounds like what I have been told the writing is like, and that seems right up my alley. Definitely check your trigger warnings before going into this, because obviously talk is about grief in here. So yeah, I own this. Not sure when I'm gonna get around to it, but I was very excited to pick this up. If you're interested, it is out already. The next release date here is January 20th, and I have 3 books that I'm going to talk about for this date that are already out. The first one I actually have read already, but I'm not going to go into my thoughts too much because I'm going to have my own spoiler-free and spoiler-filled book review on Half His Age by Jeanette McCurdy. And not gonna lie, this is probably up in the top 3 of my most anticipated releases of the entire year of 2026. And if you can tell, I have a lot to say. So we're just gonna leave it at that. So look out for that video. It should be out in between the next 2 uploads. I do wanna say with this book, this is not a romance book. And I think that there's a lot of conversation that has been had about this because obviously it seems kind of controversial. It's titled Half His Age, and look at the cover. So I think a lot of people just open their mouths before they even read the book, to be honest. And I just want you to know that don't go into it thinking it's like an actual romance book. There is a relationship between a 17-year-old girl who's a student and a 34-year-old married teacher of hers. So I don't ruin too much, I'm just going to read the inside flap. It says, Waldo, who's the 17-year-old female main character, is ravenous, horny, blunt, naive, wise, impulsive, lonely, angry, forceful, hurting, perceptive, endlessly wanting. And the thing she wants most of all, Mr. Corgi, her creative writing teacher with the wife and the kid and the mortgage and the bills, with the dead dreams and the atrophy looks and the growing paunch. She doesn't know why she wants him. Is it his passion? His life experience? The fact that he knows books and films and things that she doesn't? Or is it purer than that, rooted in their unlikely connection, their kindred spirits, their similar filter with which they each take in the world around them? Or perhaps it's just enough that he sees her when no one else does. Yeah, I am gonna say that I liked this book. That's all I'm gonna give. But I think that Jeanette McCurdy is a great writer. If you don't know, she wrote a memoir called I'm Glad My Mom Died that took over the world. Very controversial as well. I say pick that up. It's very important. And there's a lot of information that Jeanette McCurdy, from her personal experience of an age gap relationship and kind of grooming that happened in her own personal life. Even though this is fiction, you can tell that this comes from a personal place. And yeah, that's all I'll say. I say read it for yourself if you can handle it. Definitely check their trigger warnings. It is very raw. I like intense stuff and I don't run away from that, but there was a scene in this book, if you know, you know, where I had to put the book down. It was like, that was a lot. But if you can handle it, you know, I say pick it up and determine how you feel about it, and don't let all of these reviews that came out before the book was even released to steer you one way or the other. All right, the second book that released on January 20th is a debut novel called Just Watch Me by Lior Torenberg. So there's a quick synopsis here that I'll read. It says, Fleabag meets Big Swiss in this bold debut about a charismatic misfit who live streams her life for 7 days and nights to raise money to save her comatose sister. A poignant and darkly funny exploration of grief, forgiveness, and redemption. I'm gonna leave it at that because this book is only 288 pages. So that is very intriguing to me. And what's funny is that I actually haven't read Big Swiss. It's on my list, but I haven't read it. And I also haven't watched Fleabag, even though I'm aware of kind of what the humor is, I believe. And it seems like I'd be drawn to those two things. But yeah, I think this live streaming to save money for your comatose sister, and if it says it's darkly funny, this seems right up my alley. I'm sure there's gonna be some crazy shit that happens when she live streams, and I just don't wanna read much else because I'd rather go into it pretty blind and just go for the ride. So I don't own this one yet, even though it's out, but it is high up there, obviously, if it's on this list for me to pick up. And the third book that comes out, or already came out, on January 20th is by Alice Feeney, who is a very, very popular psychological thriller writer. And I hear that she has really, really good twists. However, she has a lot of books, and certain people, it's kind of like Emily Henry's books, where everyone's favorite is a different one. So I've been having a hard time figuring out what book to start with. But when I saw that My Husband's Wife, which this one is called, when I saw that it features a woman who returns home to find her life and her husband taken over by a stranger, I was like, this sounds fascinating to me. I think like the main character goes out on a run, comes back to the home, and there's a woman that kind of seems eerily similar to her, and her husband's there and saying that that's his wife, and they have to just figure all of this out and what's going on. So obviously with thrillers, as I say all the time, I don't want to go into it knowing too much, but that premise sounds really interesting. And so far, from looking at the reviews, there's, as of today, 19,724 ratings, and it's at a 4.29. So this one seems like most people are really enjoying this. So yeah, at some point I'll pick this up and read it and let you know what I thought. All right, my final most anticipated release for January, which came out yesterday, January 27th, is a nonfiction read, which is titled Fear and Fury, The Reagan 80s, The Bernie Getz Shootings, and the Rebirth of White Rage by Heather Ann Thompson. So I'm going to go into the synopsis of this, but this came on my radar and I was like, this is something that I definitely need to read, especially with what's going on right now. So I definitely want to throw this on this list. It says, in this masterful groundbreaking work, Pulitzer Prize-winning author Heather Ann Thompson reveals how the infamous New York subway shooting of 1984 divided a nation, unveiling the potent cocktail of rage and resentment that ushered a new era of white vigilant violence. I was not aware of this Bernie Getz person, and basically it's saying that on December 22nd, 1984, this white New Yorker, Bernie Getz, shot 4 black teenagers at point blank in a New York City subway car. Not sure what happened, what caused this. It doesn't say in the synopsis, but it's saying that Getz slipped away and fled, and then eventually I think he turned himself in. It's like, okay, while Getz's guilt was never in question, media outlets sensationalized the event, redirecting public ire toward the victims themselves. In the end, it would take 2 grand juries and a civil suit to achieve justice on behalf of the 4 black teenagers. For some, Getz would go on to become a national hero, inciting a disturbing new chapter in American history. This brutal act revealed a white rage and resentment much deeper, larger, and more insidious than the actions of Bernie Getz himself. Intensified by politicians and tabloid media, it would lead a stunning number of white Americans to celebrate vigilantism as a fully legitimate means for addressing racial fear fracturing American race relations. Damn. So I need to pick this up ASAP. I know it came out yesterday, but I need to go buy this or listen to it. It's 560 pages, so it seems like it's pretty in-depth. I've heard that this author also does a lot of research. Obviously, if it's a Pulitzer Prize winner, that's great. I'm very intrigued with this and feel like it's a must read to kind of understand what's going on in our country. Also, I don't know if you guys know, but I follow Traci Thomas, who has a podcast that I'll have linked below. Oh my gosh, what is that podcast called? It's called The Stacks. I don't know why that took me so long to remember, but The Stacks, if you're not aware, is a great podcast. Traci is awesome. I'll have everything linked below. But she gave it 5 stars, it looks like, and read it on the 11th of January. So I trust her opinion on all of her nonfiction. So yeah, you'll be seeing me read those hopefully next month. All right, getting into January, I have 2 books that I'm anticipating, and they actually both come out on the 24th. So to start, I am going to mention the 4th book in the Amari series, what is it called? Supernatural Investigations. It starts with Amari and the Night Brothers, and I have read this and gave it 5 stars. It's a middle grade fantasy series that is very reminiscent to me of Harry Potter in a good way. I absolutely loved this book, and I don't know why I didn't continue, because I even have the second one here, Amari and the Great Game, and I'm definitely going to be getting to this in February because I'm going to have a video linked above. I had 12 friends recommend a book each that I will finish throughout 2026, and one of my good friends, Ray, here on YouTube, under Bookmark Chronicles. This was Ray's pick, so I'm gonna get into this for Black History Month. I'm definitely going to reread the first one and pick up the second, but we'll see. I think it would be really cool to get the 3rd book and then the 4th one that comes out on the 24th, maybe do a video about the whole series, but we'll see, no promises. I can promise that I'll read the first 2 for sure, and then we'll see if I get into the other 4, but this was originally going to be a trilogy, I believe, and then it expanded into a 5-book series. So yeah, this is the 4th one that's coming out, which is very anticipated. I hope to get to it. If not in February, then at some point this year to be caught up in the series. And the second book that also comes out on, actually, I'm confused. So on Goodreads, the top section says February 24th is expected release date, but then on the bottom it says February 19th. So Not sure which Tuesday it's going to come out, but I am excited regardless to pick up Catriona Ward's new book, Nowhere Burning. So I haven't read anything by Catriona Ward yet, but I know that she is a renowned horror author. I'm just going to read the synopsis to you really quickly. It says, set in the unforgiving maw of the Rocky Mountains, Nowhere Burning is the latest harrowing novel from best-selling author Catriona Ward, perfect for fans of Riley Sager in the hit series Yellow Jackets. A refuge for lost children may also be their prison. In the middle of the night, Riley pulls her younger brother Oliver out of bed, and the two run away from home. Riley is intent on joining a group of teenagers squatting in abandoned ruins of an infamous movie star's ranch, Nowhere. For actor Leif Winham, Nowhere was a place to hide from his fame and to hide his crimes, until a fire ravaged his home and exposed him as a murderer. It is rumored that the ranch, nestled in the peaks of the Rocky Mountain, is now home to a group of feral children, a place where adults cannot enter, and Riley hopes to find a new family there. But the Nowhere kids are fierce in defending their turf and their clan, and Riley quickly realizes that while she and Oliver may have left the devil they knew, this group is a new type of diabolical. So this is given Children of the Corn. I've never read the book, but I have watched the TV series, and anything with like creepy kids I'm in for. So yeah, I'm excited to pick this one up once it is released. Okay, heading into March, I only have one anticipated release for March, and it comes out March 17th, and that is You Did Nothing Wrong by C.G. Drews. So, I have not read from C.G. Drews before, but I know that a lot of people picked up Don't Let the Forest In and loved it. I know that they're a horror author, and it says here, a relentless horror-inducing psychological suspense for fans of The Push and Baby Teeth. That's all I want to know. If you don't know, I absolutely love The Push, and this is a story, these two, The Push and Baby Teeth, I haven't read Baby Teeth, but I haven't heard great things about that. I heard that people literally said if you like Baby Teeth, then read The Push, because The Push is way better. So I just haven't gone back to read that one, but it is about a kind of like demented child. So this, I'm gathering that there's gonna be a child who seems a little demented or off or wicked, and the mom and parents kind of think that they know, but they don't want to accept that their child's different or scary, and it just kind of goes from there. And I think with the psychological thriller part, at least in The Push, we're kind of from the mom's perspective, so we're in her head of being like, did I see what I saw? Like, am I making things up? Like, surely I don't want to think this about my child, or I want to think that my child is evil. And you get it. I'm not going to go into any more of the synopsis for myself. If you're intrigued, you can look it up yourself, but I think that that sounds awesome, especially because a lot of people love this horror author, C.G. Drews. So yeah, when this comes out in March, I will likely be picking it up and doing a full review on it on my channel. All right, in March, I have a total of 6 books here, and 3 of them actually come out April 7th. Sorry if you can hear my washer. It has the longest jingle ever when it's finished, so sorry about that. But we're gonna go into a very controversial book to start. Let me pull it up so I have the synopsis. It actually came out last year in 2025 as independent, and then a big publisher picked it up, so it'll be re-released on April 7th. So I'm including it here. And that is Shy Girl by Mia Ballard. So this is a horror book where there's a relationship between our main female character and this guy who's a wealthy stranger, and he basically pays her to be his dog. And that's all I want to know. However, before like this year, when people were reading it last year, this book actually showed up on a lot of the booktubers that I follow, their favorite reads of 2025. But within the past couple of weeks of people picking this book up or getting arcs for it, I've heard this compared that people are like saying they really think that it's like AI written and that the writing is absolutely terrible. However, I haven't watched any of those videos. I've just seen the discourse a bit because I don't want to be spoiled by this book. But it is intriguing because it's like either it's everyone's favorite book of the year, or people are like, what the fuck is this? Don't read it. It's the worst thing I've ever read in terms of writing, not even just content. So this just makes me even more intrigued to pick it up. So We'll see. This is one that I think that I'll try to get to very quickly. I've even requested an arc. I haven't heard back yet, just because I want to know how I feel about it. So I'm trying to avoid any detailed information. So don't give me, I mean, you can give me your opinions down below, but please don't give me any more information about what's in the book or why you liked it or why you didn't. So yeah, I'm intrigued with that one. All right, the second book that comes out on April 7th is a total different change of pace, and that is The Book Witch by Meg Schaefer. If you don't know, I read The Wishing Game by Meg Schaefer and absolutely loved it. I didn't read the second book, The Lost Story. I own it but haven't gotten to it, but this one's coming out April 7th, and it is rising to the top of my list because it sounds awesome. Let me get into the synopsis really quickly. It says, Rainey March is a proud third-generation book witch, sworn to defend works of fiction for all foes real and imaginary. With her magical umbrella and feline familiars, she jumps into and out of novels to fix malicious alterations and rogue heroes. Book witches live by a strict, real people belong in the real world. Fictional characters belong in works of fiction. Do not eat, drink, or sleep inside a fictional world, lest you become part of the story. Falling in love with a fictional character? Don't even think about it. Which is why Rainey has been forbidden from seeing The Duke of Chicago, the dashing British detective who stars in her favorite mystery series. If she's ever caught with him again, she'll be expelled from her book coven and forced to give up the magical gifts that are as much a part of her as her name. But when her beloved grandfather disappears and a priceless book is stolen, there's only one person she trusts to help her solve the case, the Duke. Their quest takes them through the worlds of Alice in Wonderland, The Great Gatsby, and other classics that will reveal hidden enemies and long-buried family secrets. Okay, I kind of stumbled over my words, but I think you get it. This seems really whimsy. I love that it's about a book about books, that we're going to dive into some of these classics. There's a love story that's there. So yeah, this just seems like something I need, especially right now, to just disconnect from the world. That's gonna give me a fun adventure. I love witches and fantasy books, so yeah, I'm excited for this one. Okay, and the third book that comes out on April 7th is Love by the Book by Jessica George. Jessica George's debut novel, Mame, was really popular. I own it, but I haven't read it yet, and this one seems really intriguing. So, it says, friendship is a love story you can count on. Remy is lucky. Her debut novel, based on her three best friends, becomes an instant bestseller when it was released, and her agent and publisher are clamoring for a follow-up. But just as Remy's creative inspiration seems to leave her, so too do her friends. One moves to New York, one gets pregnant, and one gets back together with her awful boyfriend. After an ill-advised one-night stand complicates matters further, Remy is left deeply alone and unable to find her next book idea. Simone is successful, a kindergarten teacher with a passion for kids, and a well-paying side hustle that affords her all the material comfort she desires. She doesn't have time for a robust social life. All Simone needs is her close-knit family. But after the true nature of her work is revealed, they cut her off and she realizes for the first time just how isolated she is. When Simone and Remy bump into each other literally in a bookstore, it isn't exactly soulmates at first sight. Simone is guarded and prickly, Remy is insecure and heartbroken, and each woman is harboring a secret. And yet they might just be the missing piece the other has been searching for, if only they can let each other in. Can Simone help Remy make one of the most important decisions of her life? And can Remy help Simone recover all that she's lost? In Jessica George's heartwarming, funny, and soulful second novel, she explores the restorative nature of female friendship and the life-changing power of platonic love. So this is another book about a book, and I think that platonic female relationships is something that we need more of in books. So yeah, this sounds great. I'm honestly more interested in this than Mame, which is her debut. So we'll see which one I get to first, but yeah, I'm excited for April for this to come out. Okay, the fourth book I'm excited for that comes out in April, it comes out April 14th. I actually just got an ARC for this book and I am so excited to pick it up. I will be reading it for Black History Month, and that is The Art of Loving You by Natasha Bishop, which is the second book in her Forever Falling series. The first book was titled Only for the Weak. 5 out of 5 stars, incredible, made me feel like I love romance because I'm not a romance girly, if you guys know, but Natasha Bishop and Kennedy Ryan changed my viewpoint on that. And I don't want to go into this book knowing much at all. All I know is it says here, this book features an intimate bucket list road trip, sexy banter, and a sweet and spicy second chance romance. That's all I need to know. Road trip on here, sexy banter, yeah, second chance romance. I can't wait to pick this up. This is also one of my most anticipated books of the entire year, probably top 3, and I got an ARC somehow. So look out for my review of this at the end of February because I'll be picking this up next month for sure. The next book for April actually comes out on April 14th as well, and that is Japanese Gothic by Kylie Lee Baker. If you don't know, I'm currently making my way through the top 10 books of the Goodreads Choice Awards, the horror category, and I had to read Kylie Lee Baker's book, Bat Eater and Other Names for Cora Zing, and spoiler alert, I really liked that book. So when I saw that Kylie Lee Baker had another book that was coming out in 2026, I just put it on my TBR right away. So let's read the synopsis together. It seems like there's two different timelines. So the first timeline is October 2026. Lee Turner doesn't remember how or why he killed his college roommate. The details are blurred and bloody. All he knows is he has to flee New York and go to the one place that might offer refuge, his father's new home in Japan, a house hidden by sword ferns and wild ginger. But something is terribly wrong with the house. No animals will come near it. The bedroom window isn't always a window, and a woman with a sword appears in the yard when night falls. Okay, second story is October 1877. Sin is a young samurai in exile, hiding from the imperial soldiers in a house behind the sword ferns. A monster came home from war wearing her father's face, but Sen would do anything to please him, even turn her sword on her own mother. She knows the soldiers will soon slaughter her whole family when she sees a terrible omen, a young foreign man who appears outside her window. One of these people is a ghost, and one of these stories is a lie. Something is hidden behind the house of sword ferns, and Lee and Sen will soon wish they never unburied it. Okay, gothic horror story, historical fiction. I'm excited to pick this one up. All right, and the final most anticipated read for April comes out April 28th, and that is Mocha by Monica Kim. I read The Eyes Are the Best Part by Monica Kim, which I believe is her debut novel last year, and loved it. So I'm really excited for this. I'm also excited for this synopsis. It's pretty short, but it says Mocha now. The Korean term for spy cameras secretly and illegally installed, often to capture voyeuristic images and videos. This is a horror book, so that's all I want to know. That concept of secretly being watched and monitored is honestly too real of a fear because shit like that is actually happening, but it's a huge fear, and I'm excited to see what Monica Kim is going to do with it. So yeah, let's move into May anticipated releases. So for May, I have two books here, and the first one comes out May 5th, and I just got an ARC for this one as well. So I can't wait to pick up Nat Cassidy's short story collection called I Know a Place, Rest Stop and Other Dark Detours. So I have read Rest Stop and really enjoyed it. I also read When the Wolf Comes Home last year and absolutely loved it. It was, I believe, in my top 10. Yeah, I'm not gonna say much about this because I don't want to know what these short story collections are. It is a 472 page book, which is awesome. So I can't wait to dive into short stories by Nat Cassidy. I probably will start reading them slowly and throw them in between other books instead of just reading through it from top to bottom. But yeah, thank you to who sent this to me, Shortwave Publishing, because this was absolutely a number like top 3 of most anticipated releases of the entire year. So can't wait to pick this one up. All right, and my second most anticipated book for May is a second in a series that I haven't even started yet. But that's how excited I am to pick up The Adventures of Amina al-Sarafi by Shannon Chakraborty. The book that's actually going to be released in May is the second book called The Tapestry of Fate. And it's already on my anticipated release. I'm trying to wait. If you don't know, I am doing a TBR jar where I pull 2 books each month, and then it gives me a little bit more autonomy to pick what book I want instead of just picking one. And this was one of the ones that I picked up for January. I didn't ultimately get to this one. I read the other choice, Blue Sisters. Look out for my wrap up, which is the next video, to see how I felt about that. But I decided not to pick this one up, even though I'm very eager to read it, because I knew that the second book was going to come out in May. So I'm going to read this in April or in May so that I have the second book in the series right away. Because I feel like this is going to be a favorite. Shannon Chakraborty also wrote the City of Brass trilogy, which I haven't picked up yet, but I've heard nothing but great things about this. I'm excited to pick up another pirate story, and it's a female pirate story. The first one that I read was Trust of the Emerald Sea by Brandon Sanderson, and really enjoyed it. That was like my first pirate story, and I've asked other people to give me suggestions for other pirate sea adventure stories, and this one constantly comes up. So that's all. I don't want to go into it knowing much. I know that she's a mother, and being a mother, I think that she like retired and she was really great at being this like pirate. She retired, had a kid, but then something happens and she gets called back. And obviously being a mom and doing these like crazy adventures at sea is gonna make you feel a little bit different. I think that's a unique take. So yeah, I'm very excited for the second book and to pick this up in a couple months. All right, moving into June, and I only have one book for June, and this is also the last book for the first half of 2026's most released books for me. But this is, as I said, very high up there because it is written by a fellow booktuber here who I love and have been following them for years, which is Cindy Pham over at Read with Cindy. I'll have all of their stuff linked below, but they are releasing their debut novel, The Secret World of Briar Rose, which is a romantic or a fantasy with some LGBTQ romance in it. And I'm only gonna read the little blurb because I just don't want to know. I want to just go on this ride in Cindy's brain and see what they can do, because I feel like it's going to be great. It says, a lush and immersive queer sleeping beauty retelling about escapism, grief, and a dreaming of a better world. So that's all. I don't want to read anything else. I know it's going to be great. If you don't know Cindy, please go follow Cindy. Cindy is so immaculate in the way that they explain and recap books. They're great. Can't wait for this book to come out. And yeah, that wraps up all of my anticipated releases for the first half of 2026. If you made it to the end of the video, leave a comment down below. It means a lot to me. If you like what you have seen here and want to see more videos from me, please hit the subscribe button right down below. It really helps me out. And other than that, let's just chat in the comments until the next video. Thanks for being here. Talk soon, y'all. Bye.